What a week we have just had in fashion, and in fact, what a week is waiting for us ahead. The week started with rumors of Versace potentially being acquired by the Prada group. Then, Proenza Schoueler's boys have just stepped down, even though they are the ones that founded the brand, which creates a whole volume of new rumors that perhaps they're heading to Loewe, which then creates another rumor that Jonathan Anderson might be leaving Loewe and going to Christian Dior. On top of that, we have a potential TikTok ban in the United States. And speaking of the United States, we have Donald Trump officially entering the White House on Monday, the 20th of January. You might think it might not affect fashion, but yes, it will. We're here to talk about it with the one and only Helen Brocklebank, the CEO of Walpole, a nonprofit organization protecting British luxury. Graciela Martin, fashion journalist, creative consultant George Nikolaou, and the one and only, the host of my favorite podcast, Just a Fashion Minute, David M. Watts. Thank you all for joining the show. We'll get to the news, but let's get to the juiciest part, the gossip. News will wait. Well, the gossip is that Versace might be acquired by the Prada group. Graciela, why Versace would be sold to Prada, and why would Prada want to buy Versace?
Okay, so since last year that the Tapestry Capri merger didn't go through, now Capri has been in a bit of like a pickle, so to speak, and trying to sell off the brands. Jimmy Choo, it's like a little bit easier to sell because shoes they're like a high margin type of product. But then Versace, they haven't been bringing in great profits. Like last year, they didn't do really well, and it's a bit of a tricky brand. So obviously they want to get rid of it because it's hurting the profits, and Prada is eyeing it, and they might be interested in taking it, but at the same time, I'm not sure if it's the right fit. I mean, it's a very different type of brand. Versace is like flashy, the va-va-boom kind of woman. Then you have Prada, which is sophisticated, so to speak. I don't know. They might be buying a problem, I think, but it's nothing is decided yet.
As an industry insider yourself, for now it's just a rumor, but do you believe that this rumor is in fact true?
That Prada's looking to buy it. I think they're looking into it. I don't know if they're going to buy it.
So you do believe that Versace might be up for sale, but you don't necessarily believe that Prada would be interested in buying it. Yeah. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, I mean, they definitely want to sell Versace. I'm just not sure if Prada is convinced that that's the right move for them. Yeah, that's what I think.
Well, we were all blown away by what happened just earlier this week. Proenza's boys are leaving their own brand, and it's their brand. So now it just creates this real rumor that perhaps, yes, they are going to Loewe, and perhaps it is true that Jonathan Anderson might be going to Christian Dior. What do we think, David?
I think that from inside sources that I heard, they have actually signed with LVMH, so they are definitely going to Loewe. Now, whether that's absolute fact, but that's what I heard from a very reliable source. So, yes, that's happening. Jonathan is exiting, and of course, as we have speculated and has been rumored for so long, he is going to Dior. And apparently, from what's been said, he is taking over all of Dior. Menswear, womenswear, and couture.
So what's next for Kim Jones?
That's a very good question. Where does Kim go?
Where does Kim go?
I have no idea, because he was the golden boy, and now Jonathan's the golden boy. So where's Kim going? That's the next episode.
But that is very interesting, because I was blown away by the news, I have to say, because Jonathan Anderson was the one who did put Loewe on the fashion map. Before Jonathan Anderson's era, people didn't even know how to pronounce Loewe. Let's say that. So why would they take someone so successful at what they do? Why does Dior need a change, and why Jonathan would be the right fit?
Jonathan is incredibly ambitious. He's still young. Dior, in a nutshell, needs new creative blood. And in my view, Jonathan has a very interesting take on his creative DNA. And essentially, it comes down to the size of the business. Loewe is only €750 million. It sounds bonkers to say €750 million is a small amount of money. Dior is 20 billion a year in revenue. So the importance, and it's also Mr. Arnault, the owner of LVMH, or sorry, the chairman of LVMH, it's his favorite brand because it was the first brand he bought. So he has a soft spot for Dior. Now, Jonathan needs to bring all that pizzazz, razzmatazz, creative, shall we say, deconstruction, and I think Dior needs it. It's going to be a huge job.
Graciela, if Jonathan is going to Dior, that means he would be responsible for couture. What are your thoughts for if the rumor is true?
And he's been very much about detail and about craftsmanship and about art, and that's a lot of his inspiration. So seeing what he can do at Dior with all that couture machinery he has, I think that's very interesting. And I think he could probably do like a very, you know, he's going to make headlines for sure.
Absolutely. What I did find interesting that, you know, made us arrive to this rumor about Loewe, that Proenza's boys are stepping down from their own brand, whereas Jonathan Anderson did not step down. He kept working at both, at Loewe, while also being the creative director of his own J.W. Anderson brand. Now, this fashion duo, they're saying, okay, we're stepping down, and if it is true, if they are going to Loewe, that means they're going full on Loewe. Why would they do that? Why would they leave their own brand?
For exactly the same reason, ambition. You know, Proenza Schoueler is a very tiny brand. You know, they've done really well, but it's an American brand in America. It's a very different business. I think, personally, I don't think they're the right fit for Loewe. I think it should have been.
But J.W. Anderson was tiny brand, and he made LVMH buy it.
Well, he had the leverage to have them because he was doing a good job. You know, he turned Loewe into what it is. There's no doubt about it. And Jonathan is very persuasive. You know, so actually, you know, that was the deal. You support my business, and he's been very successful with it. And I'll turn Loewe into what it is today, which is what he's done. But bringing in American designers, I think it'll be very interesting to see because it's a very different type of business. In America, fashion brands have salespeople and merchandisers and buyers who all sit around the table with the designers when the collection's being made. That doesn't happen in Europe. They don't see merchandisers, they don't see salespeople. So in some ways, Proenza Schoueler will have free creative reign. They will be like, I can do anything I want, which will be, for them, fantastic. And they are very talented. I just think it's a very different beast to what they've been doing, stepping up to Loewe, because there's going to be huge expectation. And again, back to that, you know, Salvador da Sarno at Gucci, the pressure before he even takes the job, and the press, the media, fashion pundits, us, you know, we are just, everybody has that expectation, and it's going to be really, really a lot to deliver right from the get-go.
Graciela, do you agree, if the rumor is true, that if they are heading to Loewe, do you think they're making the right decision by stepping down from their own brand and fully focusing on Loewe?
Well, I think so, yes, because it's different. It's not the same case with Jonathan Anderson because, you know, he's based in the UK and it's easy to move to Paris or Madrid, but the Proenza boys, they're based in New York, and, you know, I think that's the reason they stepped down, because they want to commit fully to Loewe, and it's going to be a much bigger task than managing I think it's around a $70 million a year brand than a $2 billion a year brand. So I don't think it's the same circumstances, and it's like, yeah, it's a big commitment, so it's going to be, you know, too much, and that's why also they even canceled their New York show. The favorable points with Lazaro and Jack is that, you know, they're very focused on craft, they're very good with accessories, so I think those are things that are going to be good for Loewe. So whether they can, you know, keep that momentum going and keep like all that buzz around that, then that's going to be really important to see where the brand is going to go.
Absolutely. This week is quite phenomenal because the United States might have a potential ban on TikTok. Well, when we think about TikTok, we think about it as social media brand, but you might think that it will not affect fashion, but in fact, I guess it will. George, you're the creative consultant with a massive experience in digital. What are your thoughts? Update us. Is TikTok getting banned? Is it banned? Is it about to be banned? Why is it not banned, or why would it be banned? What's going on?
There is a lot going on, Bernard, and thank you again for having me. This is a live evolving situation. That's very much the reality. The Senate is meant, or was meant, to make a decision on the 10th whether the ban will go ahead. The decision hasn't been made. The deadline for TikTok to sell is on the 19th of Jan. It's looking likely that the ban can go ahead and will go ahead. I don't believe it will go ahead. Frankly, the impact will be huge. Apart from 170 million users that the US currently has on the platform, it will fundamentally change the way that we discover and consume content. Trends are being shaped and how culture is created, frankly. Is it a violation of the First Amendment? Is it a fundamental right of human and users? Yes, it is. Do I want it to happen? I don't think. And I don't believe it will actually happen. I think something magical will happen, whether it's Elon, whether it's Mr. Beast, or whether it's Donald Trump coming into the office on Monday. Frankly, there are a number of senators that actually are proposing an extension to the deadline, so that gives Trump and his administration a lot more time to actually deal with issues that are surrounding TikTok and privacy, and again, taking it a step back even further. This is very much a political situation. What is also fascinating is the fact that we are witnessing what we've seen being the great digital refugee movement, where creators are now leaving a platform like TikTok.
George, you are the founder of MYTHOSMKRS, which is a creative digital consultancy. So as a consultant to brands that are worried, who, let's say, did invest a lot of time on creating their presence on TikTok, as a consultant, what advice would you give to content creators and to fashion brands?
First of all, there's no reason to panic. I think one way or another, we are witnessing a revolution. Secondly, it's important to continue to experiment and not put all your eggs in one basket. I think, frankly, by moving or reallocating some of your advertising spend, or even as a creator, building a newsletter and trying to build your own community outside of just one platform, it's probably the biggest advice that I can give to anyone that has built an online presence. It's like, try to own your audience across many platforms, ideally on your own platform, because the harsh reality is that you don't own that platform, and it's really important to be able to diversify.
Now, speaking of the United States, well, as I said, we did have quite a week, but what a week is waiting for us ahead, because Donald Trump is officially entering the White House. And as I said, you might think that it will not affect fashion, but potentially it will. Helen, you are the CEO of Walpole, which is a non-profit organization for protecting British luxury. And you have a lot to deal with trade. Now, Trump's presidency has a lot to deal with trade because he's been very vocal about it. Fashion is all about trade. So how would Trump's presidency affect us all internationally?
So, look, I think the thing that we have to remember about Trump is that he is going to have an extraordinary, radical impact on fashion, whatever he does. I mean, and you could, whether Trump 1 or Trump 2, he is the most powerful figure in the world. The US is the biggest market, not just for fashion and luxury, but for kind of pretty much for everything. And actually, for thinking about fashion and hard luxury, high-end fashion and hard luxury, it's probably about 1/3 of the whole personal luxury goods market. So any disruption to that, any change in policy has an impact. But I'm also going to tell you why I don't think it's going to be as negative as impact as we think it will. So firstly, Trump has said, tariffs are my favorite word. Now, in luxury and in fashion generally and in trade, tariffs are not are not a favourite word. Nobody likes a tariff. A tariff is an additional cost, additional tax you have to pay if you're importing goods into that country to sell. Now, all the British luxury brands want to sell in the US. So we will find out what he intends to do with the promise he's made about blanket tariffs of between 10 and 20% on all imported goods, and more actually if your goods are coming from China. We'll find that out really probably as soon as he's in the White House. What he promises, he's going to deliver. Anybody that thinks he might row back on the tariff thing, completely wrong. However, a 10% or 20% increase on a Prada handbag, or even Versace, or on a Celebro suit, or on a Loewe something isn't going to affect the customer. The US customer, if they want it at that end of the market, the tariff is passed on to the consumer, they will pay it.
How would you respond to American local producers who would say, well, we don't care about international, but great for us Americans?
Yeah, I mean, it tends not to be great. A tariff system tends not to deliver great value for your local customer. I mean, what Trump 2 is going to do with his tariff regime is to make things incredibly expensive in the US. He wants to create jobs. He wants people to onshore manufacturing to the US. And actually, Vuitton did under Trump 1. They did build a manufacturing facility in the US as part of this kind of trade environment. But the allure of luxury fashion is that it's essentially a European production. You talk about craftsmanship, about the atelier, about the petit main at Chanel, the Savile Row tailoring, the uniqueness of the origin of that product. You can't take that away. You can't take a Savile Row suit away from Savile Row. So you can't really transplant that in Illinois or something.
What you're saying is that anything that is imported to America from international market will become more expensive, correct?
100%, yes. I mean, or should I say 10 to 20%. We don't know what it's going to look like yet, but it just becomes bad value for the American customer. Will it happen? Yes. Will it necessarily be bad for luxury fashion? Not really, because a 10 or 20% tariff will not impact too much on the wealthy US customer. There is a context of what other commentators call a luxury slowdown. Walpole, we call it a luxury normalization, because the numbers are still well ahead of where they were in 2018, 2019. But even in that context of a slowdown, the US is going to do well. And the reason why I think Trump 2 could be surprisingly great for luxury fashion is this kind of idea of a Trump bump. The interest rates will come down, inflation's coming down. He's quite focused on the rich. You're talking about the tech oligarchy, as I think Biden called them yesterday. So he's interested in wealth. He wants to put money in Americans' pockets. Mm-hmm. I'm going to make America rich, fabulous. I mean, I'm just paraphrasing here, but it was something like that. The biggest, the richest, the most bigly fabulous. I don't know, whatever it was. So, and I think we'll see the impact on sales. We will have an immediate bounce for US visitors. And the other thing is, if things get expensive in the US, we see a lot of wealthy Americans coming to visit London, Paris, Milan, Madrid, and doing what they love to do best, which is buying luxury in the country where it's made. I mean, I think it could be really great.
Because then it would potentially be, let's say, 20% cheaper to buy it here. Very interesting. What I'm very interested about, the fashion girly Melania Trump, Donald Trump's wife, because when Donald Trump first became president, well, not many fashion brands wanted to dress Melania Trump. The rumor is, or the fact is, I don't know, well, I see headlines that now fashion giants are fighting to dress Melania Trump for the inauguration day.
I think she can be an icon, because if we think about the whole, there is a kind of 80s vibe going on. She has a very formal way of dressing. She loves a short skirt and a kind of tight suit and a big pair of heels. Super glamorous, big hair, big teeth, big fabulousness everywhere. I think that's a look, that formal dressed up look is a vibe right now. And I think we could have a lot of Melania chic.
Yeah,
I think it could be fun.
she is reimagining what the first lady should look like. I do agree. But why do we think, do you first of all think that it's true that fashion giants are fighting to dress her?
I wouldn't be surprised because this is a very different ballgame this time around. As you can see, all the bazillionaires of the planet, well, mostly they're all in the US, they're all supporting Trump. Zuckerberg is throwing a party for him, you know.
It has been quite a big turnaround.
So now, of course, and this thing you said that he wants to make, well, yeah, he wants to make the rich richer. So that's why everyone's supporting him. So, of course, everybody wants to be on the winner's side. So they're like, well, we might as well, you know, dress the lady because she might up our sales or something. You know, everyone's getting on his side now. And I think they're also like a little bit afraid of the sanctions, you know, like, oh, if you don't dress Melania, I'm going to shut down your company. You know,
David, what are your thoughts?
I love Graciela's impression of Miss Trump. I think it's quite interesting what you say, because actually, she's a woman who dresses well. She always looks impeccable, regardless of the brands that she wears. She looks good in clothes. And you have to remove, it's like that thing of you have to remove her from him. I know they're married, but actually she is a person in her own right. She's the first lady, or she will be the first lady again, and therefore she is going to have that profile. And if you look good in clothes, if you have a brand in fashion, why wouldn't you want the first lady wearing those clothes, regardless of who she's married to?
And the bottom line is as well that when everybody said we're not dressing her, Melania did not care at all.
She went to the European designers.
I've got my own money. I can go to the shops. I will just do what all my friends do, and I will just buy the stuff that I want. Why do I need somebody coming to dress me?
I do agree with you because, you know, Trumps love them or hate them. I have to admit, I am very much looking forward to seeing what Melania Trump is going to wear on the inauguration day. I want to thank you all for joining Fashion News. Happy Sunday. And to our audience, happy Sunday. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what's next in fashion in the upcoming week. Mwah!